Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spock Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup, and yeah, we are a day late. And to be fair, it's because of I was kind of a dumb. I kind of had a dumb last few weeks, so yeah, it's my fault. But yeah, we're we get back on schedule. So now I honestly thought we were just gonna have one video this week, and it would just be this week's Marvel books. However, the shop that I frequent got next week's DC books in, or at least some of them. I'd have to look at the DC Connect to make sure. I probably will after I shoot this, but at least some of the next week's DC books. And so, yeah, we'll actually have two videos this week. Hopefully, everyone had a Merry Christmas or a happy whatever you celebrate. I've been a little quiet, partially because I haven't really come up with anything. Should actually have quite a bit of content coming in the next few days or so. Anyway, let's get started on this week's Marvel books, shall we? Starting with X-Men number 16. Where we left off, during Ten of Swords, Cyclops led a team of X-Men, including Jean Grey, into Otherworld to support the Sword Bearers. And Jean was told when she opted to join Scott that in going, she was giving up her seat on the council. And she said, okay, that's fine. And they saved the day, they came back. The day was saved through a combination of things. Apocalypse is an exchange of persons has been decided upon, with Apocalypse being the Krakoan exchange to Arakko, and Arakko itself being the exchange to Krakoa. So, yeah. Anyway, the issue begins on Krakoa. Cyclops, Cable, and Prestige are watching. It's explained that the Arakko point is a small dormant piece of Arakko that joined with Krakoa, the two halves of what was once a single island, Okara. Right now, Krakoa is pushing the Arakko point away from itself, disengaging the smaller island, because that's where the external gate is located. Which, by inverting the gate, is supposedly now how they're going to get the whole of Arakko here. Cable asks how that's going to work. Cyclops has no idea, but Prestige notes that it's starting. Big explosion. When all is said and done, Prestige says it's big, while Cable scoffs, says he's claiming to have seen bigger, so this is told to shut up. And yeah, Arakko is now there. And it seems looks like the two islands are about to become one, but they begin to merge, and then they push back. They push away. Having Cable asking, if something's wrong. It's commenting that he doesn't have any love on the islands, and so I was like, yeah, it would seem not. Later on and elsewhere, Doug Cypher Ramsey, the voice of Krakoa, is talking to Krakoa itself, asking, how are we gonna, what do we do? And so it's decided that, and basically Krakoa turns himself into a giant ant, picks up Doug, and they go out into the middle of the ocean and communicate with, Arakko. The giant ant version of Arakko. At the Quiet Council, Doug explains it's not going to happen. There will not be a reunification of the islands. explaining it's been thousands of years. They don't seem to be interested in the idea. And Doug really doesn't think they like each other anymore. Kate suggests, well, if they just talk it out, Doug says, it's not that easy. The base morphology of their language, of common language is there, but lexicon drift, branching deviations, and syncope and ecope, as well as environmental changes of how existing in a warlike setting affects an evolving vocabulary. They don't speak the same language. Magneto asked what the point of everything was, and Cypher kind of just has one of, I've got a wife now. Emma, rather in a verbal manner, rolls her eyes. While Mystique is fairly certain that the happy couple's anything but happy. Exodus is congratulatory, as is Nightcrawler. Shaw basically, hey, be your first mutant, be Omega mutant. Xavier then explains there are more urgent matters at hand. But before Doug can start with more urgent matters, Magneto asks Sinister to illuminate the council, as Sinister has actually been to Arakko. However, Sinister said he'd rather not. He's been through a lot and doesn't want to talk about it. Xavier asks if Cypher can once again ask Krakoa if there's any way the two islands can find common ground. And it's explained that it's not really a problem on their end. It's the other island, and apparently the other island is intractable. And he goes on to add that he really cannot stress how different the two islands sound. Adding that it might extend to all of them as well. When Storm asks who, he adds, the mutants on Arakko, and so, of course, it's they're easily forgotten when you've never matched a name up to a face. There's no reference to them in any of the reports they've seen. Storm mentions that a few who entered the tournament were from Arakko, but most were old enough to come from the islands they were one. And it seems there are 20 times as many mutants on Arakko as there are on Krakoa. And when you really think about the fact that the X-Men, the five have been doing what they can to resurrect dead mutants. The fact that there are 20 times the number of mutants on Arakko as on Krakoa is a pretty big deal. Mystique is surprised. Emma states that there's a problem well beyond the two islands talking to each other. What do they do with all of them? And Cypher simply says that feels like an entirely different conversation than the one they're currently having. So, on Arakko, one of the Amenthi demons is running loose when Iska the Unbeaten discovers it and lops off its head. And is found by Magneto and Xavier. And so they try to discuss things, and first off they come offering a gift, a portal flower. And she asks about the rest of the planet. Okay, so there's humanity, humans. She knows of humans. Humans existed when she went to when the two islands split. She's surprised that humanity honestly still persists on Earth. But she does kind of think, thousands of years, growth, invention, survival. Let's have a way of sharpening a tool. But she states that if mutants of Krakoa share a world with these humans, then they must be formidable, worthy of an impasse. The Magnetism says they're just men. Because, well, Magneto. But it is explained that whereas Krakoa has the Quiet Council, Arakko has the Great Ring, of which Iska is a part. We get a rundown of the Great Ring. Explain that power is the power is what matters on Arakko. The Great Ring is made of the most powerful, most intelligent, and most cunning mutants. No mutant has ever sat on the Great Ring who is not an Omega level mutant. Never. Has never and will never happen. Now, an interesting point that's made is stated is that there are 3 houses, so to speak, of the Great Ring: Dawn, Dusk, and Day. There's a rumored 4th house, however, Night. And it's unknown who has the 3 seats. Iska the Unbeaten and Tarn the Uncaring are among those in the Dawn house. If I remember correctly, Tarn the Uncaring is the Professor X analog that Sinister ran into in the Hellions tie-in issues. Also, you got Arakko itself and Red Root, who is still another world. Later on, Cyclops and Jean show up at the council chambers and are both promptly offered the 2 empty. Basically, Jean has said, "Hey, look, it's not." Jean is told it's not going to. We won't really have to debate much to, decide. Okay, fine, you get your seat back. You're in the council back. And Scott, we don't know how long Apocalypse is going to be gone. Hey, you know what? You can have his seat. They're just like, nah, we're good. And they're of course, they're polite about it. It's like, hey, well, Jean is more to the point of saying no, and then Scott thanks them. But then Jean explains that when Magneto asks why not, she explains that they feel like they have something more important to do. The X-Men. And there's one thing that Scott and her have learned from the beginning of the Great Krakoa Experiment is that the people of Krakoa need to feel like someone is acting on their behalf, not deciding what's best for them, not deciding what is and is not in their best interest, but someone who fights for them. And that's the X-Men. And then, as Captain Commander, as Scott is the Captain Commander, Magneto asks what of his responsibilities to the Council, and so Cyclops says that he'll still be one of the great captains. The Council can call on him whenever the nation needs defending, but the X-Men initiative is separate from that. Xavier considers this for a moment, and smiling says that he realizes there's no talking them out of it. Jean confirms that no, there isn't. Magneto asks if they've decided who's going to be on the team. And Cyclops states that he could always handpick a team that could get the job done, but that doesn't feel like the right way to go about it. So, they're going to elect the X-Men. There are a handful of party affiliations. Academos, Habitat, House of M, Hellfire, Bar Sinister, Quiet Council, Wild Hunt, and Iraqi Pillar. The Quiet Council is not eligible to be voted on to the X-Men. explained that the X-Men are the heroes of Krakoa, for the people made up of the mutants of their great nation. In the coming days, they will announce the dates of their annual X-Men election and will be accepting nominations for representatives. So it'll be followed by a formal vote and then an unveiling of the team at their first Hellfire Gala. I'm actually looking forward to. I'm seriously looking forward to seeing who's going to make the cut. And that is where the issue ends. But yeah, like I said, I am seriously looking forward to seeing just who is going to make the cut when it comes to the X-Men. I'm kind of hoping we see some of the. I'm hoping we get some of the villain. It's like some of the long-standing villain characters as X-Men. I kind of. I mean, we have had in the past ex-villains becoming X-Men briefly. We've had some that have become X-Men and actually kind of stayed X-Men, like Frenzy. Member of various villain groups. To me, most notably the Acolytes. Then, after the events of Age of X, she became an X-Man because she had her memories from Age of X, her Age of X persona. Admittedly, yeah, part of that was because she kind of there were things about that she kind of liked, and was like, why not try to make that the reality? But yeah, Sabretooth has been a card-carrying X-Man. Mystique, Magneto. Seriously, it's kind of one of those. Okay, Magneto should be rejoining the team in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, then he just pulled the doors open with his powers. Okay. Anyways, moving on to our next book of the week. Wolverine number 8. Legacy number 350. Now, this is kind of fun to me because one of the first issues of Wolverine's solo book I ever owned was, in fact, Wolverine number 50. It actually had a similar cover to the cover I ended up picking up of the new Wolverine number 1. It was like a case file kind of thing, but with it was a die cut cover. And you had 3 claw marks through, 3 cuts through it, and open it, and oh yes, all these pictures from Wolverine's past. It was a third part of a story that dealt with Wolverine's past. Anyway, so the issue begins at the home of Jeff Bannister. Wolverine comes through the gate. Jeff offers him a cold one. Says long day, and Logan says long life, more like. And so Jeff wants him to tell him about just tell him about it. He's like, no, really, I mean it. I want to know. And Jeff tells a story about when he was in the military and how him and his unit accidentally shot up a diplomatic envoy, an American diplomatic envoy. Press said that they were told that they didn't know it was an envoy, a diplomatic envoy. They thought it was terrorists, bad guys. Fired at the convoy. Oh, look through it, and it's a diplomatic convoy. Press says, oh yeah, terrorist got him. But Wolverine explains that looking back is like spinning the cylinder of a revolver, the bullets whirling in a blurry circle. He then tells a story about Team X. How there was one time where they so Team X was the CIA outfit that consisted of Wolverine, Sabretooth, and Maverick. More on Maverick later. But it was an oil platform, one of the biggest in the world, responsible for 4.5 million tons of oil per year. They were supposed to make the explosion look like an accident. equipment failure, which meant no survivors. They killed 1,000 men on there. Some were shot, some were stabbed, the rest burned. For a month the sea flamed, for a year the tide carried death in it, fish and whales and seals, all for profit. They cut off one valve so another could gush. But it turns out there's some actual CIA stuff that Bannister wants to talk to Wolverine about. The X-Desk. And it turns out the X-Desk, well, it's not just mutants the X-Desk is watching, but also Bannister. And Bannister is now in their crosshairs. Now, the X-Desk, if you recall, was featured prominently quite a bit early, at least early on, in Marauders. The operative working the desk basically made it had to swear, hey, yeah, I know my mom's taking Krakoan drugs, getting better. This is not going to affect my work in any way, shape, or form. This will not, facts are facts. That's that. They also got some intel to the Marauders, but maybe they aren't as benevolent as we've been led to believe. That's where that interlude ends. In Utah, we get another interlude. A bunch of armored mercs attack a black site. Making their way through. Yeah, the guards don't stand a chance against them. One of them takes a small wound right about here. So that's the only blood that they'll get out of it. But pulls out. Among the things he grabs are Logan's old Team X dog tags. Back on Krakoa, Omega Red comes out from his cave, which has bits and pieces of dead bodies around, and he eats a flower from outside. And he gets caught in a trap. Is attacked by Scout, formerly known as Honey Badger, and then Dakin, and finally Wolverine. Apparently, Wolverine said, told the kids he could handle Red himself, but they insisted on making it a family affair. But Wolverine is confronting Omega Red about what happened in Canada. Red swears, hey, I didn't follow you through the gate, and I never held you below the ice of that lake. Didn't hand you out to Dracula and the Vampire Nation for bloodletting, so on and so forth. And that from what Red hears, Logan's the one that's been vulnerable to mesmerism lately. Hurts mutants. Then, and Red also states that, while Wolverine might not have any doubt in his heart, he does in his head. Otherwise, he wouldn't be there, baiting it, testing it. And Omega Red suggests that Wolverine not make enemies out of friends, not in a time like this. Then Sage calls him, and Wolverine and the kids head out. We then learn about the Singing Stones. Singing Stones were developed by Forge, supervised by Beast. The purpose is Krakoan biotech capable of absorbing sound for storage and replay. We get some recording samples from a vase placed in the office of a senator for re-election. Paving stones of a patio at a home of a CEO, the CEO of a premier online retailer. Totally not Jeff Bezos, who, by the way, wants to live on the moon like the Summers do. Countertops in the kitchen of a ski villa in the French Alps, and it's very clearly Tony Stark, seeing as how, you know, the quote, the recording sample is to Patsy. Yeah. And apparently he's been doing the math when it comes to their deaths and comparing their current population, and math isn't adding up. There's also one that's a cross found on the wall of the private quarters of presumably the Pope. And there are fears of a new religion. So that it may see doubt in both God and Jesus and man. And the point turns out that Beast and Sage have basically a CSI danger room, which Beast affectionately calls the Shadow Room. And Logan is told about the Black Site, and it's stated that, you know, the three members of Team X, one is unaccounted for. Agent Zero, aka David North, aka Maverick. There's a group called the Mercs, and Beast. Well, first off, it turns out that Domino's dog Rufus belonged to a member of the Mercs, but Beast has discovered that these guys are mercenaries. Plain and simple. They're not, you know, they don't care about the politics. They care about the paycheck. That's all. Apparently, they're in Los Angeles for a mission. The mission is raiding Dazzler's place. She has hard light construct dogs, which emit sonics, and plus also Wolverine is there. Wounds them. Buries the one member of the Mercs, the one that Rufus used to belong to, in fact, up to his neck as Tide's coming in and starts questioning him about Maverick. As the line of questioning continues, however, a sniper has taken a position and puts a bullet through the Merc's head. But it turns out they're the Mercs have been basically snagging stuff for a place called the Legacy House. It's an auction place. Superhero stuff is always big, and right now mutant memorabilia is huge. And of course there's an upcoming auction. Wolverine's got it. Sage has arranged an invite for Wolverine. They get him he's tailored a tux. Turns out that the auction's in Madripoor, so of course Wolverine goes as Patch and makes his way to the auction in room 13. That is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our next title, Avengers Number 40. Where we left off, during the Age of Khonshu, the Phoenix Force returned and briefly took over Moon Knight. Until he said, fuck off, Pat. Piss off, fiery bird. However, afterwards, it's created a nest right by Avengers Mountain, where it's waiting for something. And people have felt, and there are members of the hero community of the superpower communities who have felt a call. So the issue begins. Captain America's running through the Savage Land, Turns out from a Phoenix-empowered Doctor Doom. But turns out that Doom isn't the only one Phoenix-empowered, as Cap is as well. And in fact, Cap's trying to, remind himself that, yeah, okay, he's got a sliver of cosmic power, but maybe he needs to remember he's who he is, basically. We then flash back to earlier. Black Panther has linked himself to the Celestial's brain and is trying to talk to the Phoenix Force when Namor and Defenders of the Deep show up, unhook Black Panther, and Namor says, "Hey, I called the Phoenix here. The Phoenix is here for me, so I'm going to the Phoenix." But Wolverine's waiting on him. Two of them duke it out, and then switch back to now where Doom just wants to be given the Phoenix Force. It's like this whole "give me part of your power" thing. No, fuck that noise. Give me the whole thing and let this. So because we know I'm worthy, and he's on his own power mixed with the segment of the Phoenix Force that he's got. He is handing Phoenix Cap his ass, but Phoenix Cap keeps getting up. Back with the fight between the Avengers and the Defenders of the Deep, they get defeated. Or they kind of manage to get things at a standstill, but then the Phoenix wakes up. And a handful of the combatants vanish as the Phoenix flies off. But the Phoenix keeps on resurrecting Cap every time Doom defeats him because he's fatally defeating him. And when Doom realizes, he's just like, yeah, okay, you know what? I forfeit. I'm done. So, you may, whatever you're searching for in a host, it's not me. I forfeit. And back in the White Room, Cap has returned to the White Room. And they learn that technically, Cap won. And so far, we've got definitively Black Panther, She-Hulk, Wolverine, Captain America, Namor, Shang-Chi, Black Knight, Echo, Man-Thing. Looks like we've got the Squadron Supreme Nighthawk, we've got Valkyrie, we've got Luke Cage, we've got Hyperion, Howard the Duck, Orb, I think that's Red Widow, Double Dinosaur and Moon Girl, as well as Sheena and Zabu. I think maybe American Eagle? But Cap has come to the conclusion that there are no winners present, only just the Phoenix and its prey. And so we come to King in Black, Iron Man, Dr. Doom. So where we left off in King in Black, especially at least for the most important stuff, Iron Man had managed to fuse his Extremis armor with a bit of symbiote. And killed Eddie Brock in the process. So we open with a flashback where when Tony was a child on Christmas one year, Santa gave Tony the Johnson and Bernstein building, prime Manhattan real estate. And he's actually looking at it now, covered in symbiote goop, when Doom shows up. asking if, the way, basically, the way you're mourning Venom, would you mourn me the same? And Iron Man kind of says, it depends. Did I kill you? Was I trying to save you? And then something flies across the sky, and it's night. It's December. It's a sleigh with 8 reindeer. And the driver of the sleigh has been venomized. Or nullified. And it's like, sleigh bells sting in perdition. And so Doom and Iron Man... I can't believe I'm going to say this. Doom and Iron Man fight Santa Claus. And they do eventually win. Thanks in part to the symbiotic... to Iron Man's new armor. But they managed to free the Santa. They walk... Larry comes back towards them. Points at Iron Man and, like, Tony, always such a good boy. Then turns to Doom and says, and Victor, one of the naughtiest who have ever lived. They find his license, and according to the license, he is Michael Dunwoody from Paramus, New Jersey, owner of Snow Globe Holiday Decoration Supply. And Doom notes that the armor was able to reverse the effects of Null's assimilation. But Iron's like, yeah, I did it for him, but I'm not going toe to toe with Null anytime soon. Which Doom's like, yeah, that's cool, But this unique amalgamation could be extrapolated to something that could go up against Null. Of course, obviously, Doom is referring to himself, but and Doom goes, hey. When Tony shoots him down, but he's like, hey, don't be so quick to dismiss it. Though now, Tony's thinking, and Doom gives Tony probably the closest he'll ever give Tony Stark to a compliment. That is saying it's a benefit that Tony's thinking because his intellect is higher than average. But apparently, this Michael Dunwoody knew both of Tony and both Iron Man and Doom's names. Though neither of us have a. It's not like we it's not like we claim to be anyone other than Victor Von Doom and Tony Stark. And then and Doom says, he intends he so arrogantly quantified the sum of moral value of our respective deeds and. Again, Iron's like, that's not that hard. And finally Iron Man says, hey, look, Victor, if you want to live in Santa, that's okay. Though, of course, that's preposterous for the Lord of Latveria. Doom is merely conducting an intellectual investigation of what has just occurred. As Iron Man flies off, Doom, stroking the chin of his mask, wonders if Santa Claus could be a sorcerer supreme, maybe, and that is where the one shot ends. Which that was kind of fun. I wish it'd come out a week ago because I think that would have been a little more fitting time wise. But yeah, next up we've got King in Black Namor #2. Where we left off, Namor was. Reminiscing about a group called the Swift Tide, a group of Atlantean warriors from decades ago. I think, honestly, close to a century ago, to be perfectly honest. Or more than a century ago. But a young Namor, as well as a Tuma and a friend of theirs, were actually tasked. Kind of sort of got you know recruited into the Swift Tide, and so yeah, they're going with them into battle. Swift Tide's taking out bandits, tracking them down, and kind of this is how it's done. But it turns out these bandits have found an ancient eldritch evil, or a formidable eldritch servant. But yeah, the Swift Tide manages to defeat their eldritch servant. We get some information about the history of about Atlantean history, as well as Atlantean magic, along with dispelling a misconception. Just because you're able to defeat something doesn't mean you're more powerful. It just means you're more resourceful, or you may also be more powerful. And then we get some ancient Atlantean history, which basically makes the Cthulhu mythos part of Marvel history. The first ones to rule beneath the sea were the Great Old Ones, near gods from the outer dark, beyond reality itself, enslaved the deeps for cold eons of pain, blood magic, and insanity, building great cities vast and forbidding, like deep Relaya, and they spawned terrible creatures, some of whom lurk in the shadowed realms even now. And when the Atlanteans came, they warred bravely against the Dark Ones for millennia of struggle, driving them into the depths, killing them when possible, or imprisoning them in shadow, in the void, in stone. For example, one such relic is the Forgotten Stone, a manifestation of evil power, perhaps even their manifestation of their souls. Dark forces have a will of their own, and no matter how securely Atlantis tries to bind and entomb them, they do have a habit of slipping away. On the surface, a young Baron von Strucker is in the midst of a mission. And it seems they may have found the stone. It's ended up in the floor of a harbor. They're not going to remove it from the floor just yet. They're being warned that doing so might set off an energy so it can obliterate Murmansk. They are doing, however, prevent an X-ray to see what they can find about its structure, which is not as much as Strucker wishes they would do, but, well, yeah. The Atlanteans also learn of this, so they go after it. However, something happens, causing them to feel impact and darkness. And then it felt foul, like poison or radioactive waste they would come to know later. The three young ones are sent away, and the Swift Tide go to investigate and become changed into the Black Tide, as something has gained a hold of them. Presumably, some of Null's essence is in there, and so, yeah, they're covered in symbiote goo, which has also kind of mutated them a little bit, giving them a much more malevolent look. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our next book of the week, Werewolf by Night, number 3. Where we left off in Werewolf by Night, it looked like we were about to have ourselves a fight between our newest Werewolf by Night and time-traveling hero Red Wolf. Well, okay, his shtick isn't time travel, it's more he has time traveled from the past. He has traveled from the past to the present. But yeah. So the fight goes on, and Red Wolf's impressed. He pulls a lasso and, manages to subdue the werewolf. And then does manage to calm him without tranking him or without using a taser on him. Then Red Wolf kind of passes along some information about himself via tribal song. And the next day, Red Wolf decides he realizes why he's in the present to mentor Jake, our hero, and he explains that how can I do well, I'm gonna tell you a story that I thought was a myth until I met you last night. The Song of the Wolf. The rising sun brought Farmer's Boy to the field where Chieftain's daughter loved from afar. Farmer's Boy was not a warrior but a peasant, unworthy to hold Chieftain's daughter's hand. Chieftain's daughter begged wise men to nurture their love. Wise men saw many painful futures, but one that brought peace. Wise men guided them to a hidden sanctuary far from home, ruins of an ancient land where they could grow together. But Chieftain could not rest until his daughter was returned. He gathered his best warriors to find her and Farmer's Boy. Many moons came and went before the warriors found them entwined. They were taken by surprise and brought home, Farmer's Boy bound. Execution at dawn after full moon's night, Chieftain's daughter begged wise men to help once again. Wise men visited Farmer's Boy with a choice. Hidden by Grandmother Moon's long shadows. Drink this and become wolf. Having strength beyond strength, no bars shall hold. Farmer's Boy drank, and a great spirit came within. Wolf grew from Farmer's Boy and gave thanks to Grandmother Moon. Wise men said, no death may come or wolf will stay, but Farmer's Boy saw Chieftain, and with wolf's rage, Chieftain was slain. Farmer's Boy, still covered in blood, found Chieftain's daughter. Her love overcame grief, and together they ran away. Their children cursed from this day forward, only to be broken when 7 wolf years were free from death. And that's that's actually really cool. Like I reading this, I was like, oh, okay, all right, but yeah, that is just super cool. And that's literally what Jake's being shown. Then Red Wolf's partner JJ calls him, and apparently at the station they've got a major situation. The techno-wares, I guess, are attacking the station. So Jake and Red Wolf head out. Both Jake and JJ are given additional weapons from Red Wolf's vehicle. The tech wares want Jake. Fight breaks out. They manage to injure one of the techno-wares. Techno-wares blow up the vehicle. And Whiptail, the one who's injured, is taken, and he says, okay, we gotta go. Get back to Mother. Red Wolf asks if they should follow them. JJ's like, yeah, there's probably no point. They're going back to Live Pharma. Then Jake realizes that if the three knew who he was, outside of wolf form, they probably tracked down his grandmother. And yeah, they did. On her phone, she took a video of her being captured by some mercenaries. And Jake gets on his dirt bike and heads towards Life Pharmaceuticals. JJ and Red Wolf are informed of what's going on. A few hours later at Life Pharmaceuticals, the CEO is talking with one of the executives, Hadley, who does know for a fact, yes, Jake is the werewolf. And the executive, Hadley, refers to Dr. Mikowski, the CEO, as Mother. It should be noted. But apparently they've got Jake's grandmother, who is ready for the infusions. And Mikowski, they said a new tomorrow is upon them, a sustainable future for her children. And apparently they've already got Jake captured. And she states that they are all her children, even Jake, though he does not yet know it. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our final Marvel video, or Marvel comic of the week. Ghost Rider, The Return of Vengeance. So Vengeance was another writer introduced in the 90s. Michael Badalino was a cop. He had some exposure to Hellfire when he was younger, thanks to Johnny Blaze, and he made a deal with Mephisto, was empowered, realized, oh, my dad was the bad guy after all, tried to redeem himself or at least be a hero. Actually, briefly even took over as Ghost Rider when Danny Ketch was dead. But yeah, he always had he had a very spiky look, very, well, 90s. So we begin in hell. Michael Badalino is being dragged to ended up in one of the lower depths, alongside Anton Hellgate, a long-time Ghost Rider foe, and another Ghost Rider foe, Skinner of the Lilin. In fact, Badalino's got history with both of them. But, yeah. So we get the abridged version of his history. But, yeah, Skinner gives... Skinner and Badalino are made to fight. But Skinner mentions he has been holding on to a shard of Ghost Rider's Hellfire-infused bone. And Badalino takes it and turns into Vengeance. Frees Skinner. They said they're getting out. Vengeance makes a bike out of bones. They take Hellgate. They fight various demons on their way, trying to make their way out of hell. And basically they're going to recreate the how Lilith escaped way back in Spirits of Vengeance number 1. In Ghost Rider Spirits of Vengeance number 1 from the 90s. And they're going to use Hellgate to do it. Which is exactly what they do. But yeah, they basically rip Hellgate open in hell, so he's already dead. And but it's explained they have to, this time they will have to ride out together. They can't go separately. So Skinner hops on the bike. Vengeance sees everything, including Skinner's life. How he killed his wife and son. Once they arrive back on Earth, in New York, because, well, that's where all superheroes are, well, they talk about it. Skinner sees his killing of his wife and kid as being a mercy to them for what Lilith would have done to them. But yeah, Vengeance kills him, sends them back to hell, and he's just glad to be back. Doesn't care what Ketch or Blaze are up to. He's just there to bring vengeance to those deserving. That is where the issue ends. That's me it for this part of the roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long, rock hard, and have a happy New Year, everyone.